cats or not.
Oh gosh. All right, welcome to Bass Fishing Live Thursday night, February 23rd. This is for those who've been with us a long time. We've done well over 100 live shows, mostly deer hunting because that's what people want to talk about. So we decided to do a spin-off. This is our Bass Fishing Live show focused only on bass fishing. Our fourth show, and we have some special guests. Josh is with us again. Our
Always.
buddy John Smith. You may remember John. He was on the show with us probably a year ago. He's another Harlan County boy like us. And one of John's good friends, and you may recognize him, Jordan Lee from Major League Fishing down from Alabama. Jordan, thanks for being here. John, thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So Jordan's taking some time off to do this show, but as you notice, he's really not taking time off because he's still working in the shop. But we can appreciate that.
We're just playing around. This was bothering me. This rattle trap was just sitting there dangling. I'm like, I got at least tie it on.
You got to fix it. Eddie Endicott's here. Eddie, thanks for watching, my friend.
What's up, Eddie?
If you're watching, let us know where you're watching from. Share this on your page. Share this with your friends. Tag your fishing buddies in it. Eddie says he only made it because he's sick. Eddie messaged me and said, "Hey, man, I'm sorry I've been missing your shows." And now he's watching, but he's sick. It's just like a lose-lose.
Yeah.
Scott Butler's here. He says I'm his favorite person in the world. I guess that's why he bullies me every Thursday.
He bullies you every Thursday because all you do is interrupt him. That is the only reason he bullies.
You got to keep the show going, man. Like, I don't like the silence, so I just try to keep it going. So, Jordan,
it should be called Bass Fishing with John. Is what it should be called.
That's, you know what? I thought of that. I didn't want to hurt your feelings. So, Jordan and John, both of you have brothers, competitive brothers. Josh and I are brothers. So you guys know, whether we're on the show or we're fishing or whatever it is, we're always competing. So even to get that last word in.
Y'all are butting heads all the time. It never stops.
And I win. And I always come out on top.
You're a little bigger than he is, though, John.
A little. He tried to challenge me. He tried to challenge me like Thanksgiving. He put his arms around me. It ended up me on top of him in the floor. And I've always told him, I will wear you out for the first 30 seconds. After that, I'm done. But
yeah, well, see, he's always bigger, stronger, but I'm much more athletic than him. So
now he is now that I'm old.
And a lot more handsome. So
I could see Matt being a little scrappy, Jordan. I don't
Matt's
know.
pretty scrappy. We're both out of shape though. I think last time we tried to brawl, we didn't last very long. We just gave up.
You just quit, yeah.
Yeah.
Now who's older, you or Matt?
Matt's 2 years older than me.
I thought. And so John's brother's older, and they call him Biggin, and that's just yeah. But I will say, although he was a good athlete, John's got him beat. So looks like we got some people in the comments. Well, we already got some questions coming in. Here's guys, we're going to get to your questions, but we're also going to talk about what's going on with Major League Fishing. John and Jordan competed against each other in college, so maybe get some good stories there. And we're just going to have a good time. Dakota Trimble has already said this lake sucks.
Absolutely does.
Jordan, how many rounds have you sold out of selling those hoodies?
Man,
Josh is wearing one right now.
Yeah, I know. I like that. He's sporting it. First time.
Always, man.
I like it. No, we came out with them probably about 3 or 4 months ago, and I think we've done two or three rounds of them, but they're pretty hard to. It takes a while to get them in. So
yeah,
we're just it's just something fun. And Kristen's always heard me coming in from tournaments and just complaining and being like, this lake sucks. So she was like, when we were thinking about coming out with some apparel, we knew that my personal stuff, the Jay Lee stuff. I mean it probably sell a little bit. Some people like that, but Universal, we wanted something funny. So she, has always heard me say that. So she's like, let's do it. Let's just do this lake sucks, because everybody can relate to that.
Oh yeah.
Pretty much every time we go to the lake, there's always that time, that thought in your head, like, yeah, lake just really does suck.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah,
I
Go ahead, John.
I don't know if I picked that up from you like years ago in college or whatever, but when you come out with that, Wanda, I hadn't even didn't even see it or whatever, but Wanda came up to me and she was like, John, look, you say this all the time. I'm like, it's true. It is the truth.
I think it's just the fisherman in us. I think it's just all. I think everybody says it. So yeah, it's something fun, something something
It
funny.
is. I told John and I were talking about it the other day, and I said, I say this lake sucks, but it's mostly because of me and not the lake.
Yeah,
It's
most
because
of the
I
time
suck.
us, but there's always somebody catching them. But they can't bite every time for
that
us.
somebody is usually not me. So.
Yeah.
And we got to complain. We're fishermen, so you know what? We got to complain about something, or it wouldn't be fishing.
That's
Yeah, I
true.
mean, even on a good day, you think, man, I should have had that one, or I should have done this. I mean,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, especially if you're a competitor, right? And I know, you're an Auburn guy. Auburn football right now, not that great, but I mean, just growing up in that environment, I'm sure you're competitive. Someone already said War Eagle in the comments. So I don't know. What do you? What is your thoughts on Auburn football currently and your new coach Hugh Freeze?
Currently, I mean, it's been a pretty.
We can't hear you.
You got.
Oh, there
There
you
you
go.
go. Yep, good.
Yeah, I had my hand over my microphone probably. But Auburn football currently, we've been in a pretty big dry spell, but I mean, it's been tough. Honestly, it's been tough to watch the last couple of years. I mean, we're just like, I know what's coming, but this year, I think it's going to take a couple of years when you get a head coach. It doesn't ever happen like overnight. It seems like so. We'll see. My expectations aren't really that high right now, but we'll just have to wait and see.
I know John was feeling good this year as a Tennessee fan.
Yeah,
Finally felt like you guys have made it back.
yeah. A quarterback got hurt, so
He did.
That's the revenge in it. But
You guys still would have done better than TCU.
yeah, I think so. Just kind of like Jordan said, though. Our coach came in. He's had a couple of years, and I feel like we're going the right direction now. I don't know that we'll ever be what Georgia or Alabama is, or even what Auburn was, but we're heading the right direction. So.
Absolutely.
So
y'all have one of the best games of all year to watch, in my opinion. So I enjoyed that thoroughly watching.
There's
somebody right now catching bass off a field goal post too. So.
Oh yeah. Hey, that's right there where the Classic's going to be this year. That could be the winning pattern right there.
That's the secret, man.
They did go and dump it into the river.
They did.
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
So somebody's going to have their forward-facing sonar and pick that goalpost up and catch a big winning bag off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome to catch a fish off that.
So listen, here's, we're all college football fans, but I want to talk about Auburn versus EKU. Are there any good stories from when you guys were in college competing? Are there any Auburn versus EKU? Now, look, I graduated from EKU, right? So I didn't bass fish, that's for sure. But well, you don't even put those two schools in the same. Like fishing may be the only sport you can put those two schools in the same breath as. Did you guys ever go head to head against when you're battling it out for a trophy?
Yeah, we fished. There were several tournaments we fished against each other, and with that too, college fishing it's changed a lot since when we fished. But yeah, there were some times. I remember one time we had one on Gunnersville, and we come to weigh in, we got our fish out, and Jordan was like, "Y'all got them?" And it's like, "No, I mean decent, but probably not enough." And he looked in our bag and he was like, "Man, y'all got 25 pounds." No, we ain't got close to that. And I think we ended up having just shy of 25. But Jordan ended up coming in. You had a top 5 in that tournament, I think, didn't you?
Maybe so. I can't remember what term that was. I remember y'all having a big bag. Was that a college bass tournament?
It was, yeah. We the second day. So Kyle, there was a local that was fishing really the only school of fish that we had found, and he tried to come in on us on the first day, and we already had over 20 pounds, and the second day we had a better boat number. Whenever we pulled up, he was sitting right on our spot, and Kyle wouldn't go fish next to him. So I think we ended up having like 18 pounds or something the second day. But yeah, that was a college bass. I can't remember those boys. I know those one boys called them. I can't remember what school they were from. Maybe in the boy that Tom, is it Fink or Frink?
Yeah,
your buddy. It was the boy he used to fish with. I think they had a good tournament. They caught him off of the bridge out in front of Mink Creek, I believe. You remember that?
Yeah,
that sound familiar?
you're right. Yeah, it's changed a lot. But we had some good times in Little Rock, fishing the College Bass National Championship. We fished against each other up there in the 100-degree heat.
Yeah, it was awful.
It was awful. But yeah, back then there was only John, 80 boats maybe.
Yeah, there wasn't many.
200, 200 plus. So, there wasn't like that many people, college anglers who fish compared to what it is now. But we definitely had some good times.
College fishing, even high school fishing, has blown up.
Yeah.
But if you look back at like your all's group, like those 3 or 4 years, there were a lot of good anglers in that group. You feel like maybe that kind of opened the door, because it wasn't too long after that it started really expanding.
I was going to say, I feel like, I don't know how far college bass fishing goes back, but it's almost like you all kind of laid the foundation.
Away, yeah.
Like you all kind of got it kick-started.
Yeah, we were kind of in the beginning of it, weren't we, John? We were in that first probably, 5 years, I would say, of it around that. So yeah, when we were in school, that's when they offered the classic spot, and they were doing the FLW Cup too. So that was like new when we were like first starting out.
Yeah, I know. Whenever we first started, like on the FLW side of it, see which was still 3 circuits, but on the FLW side of it, and which National Guard was their title sponsor. But they threw out the money. There was a lot of money to be made in college fishing.
So could y'all? I couldn't remember, John. Could y'all? I was talking about this with somebody else. Could y'all keep the money?
That's what I was going to ask.
So I don't know how it was at Auburn. At EKU, we're considered a club sport. So we had it written in our bylaws that any money that we won would go back to us. So the school got a certain percentage of it. I think it was like 75-25. We got 75%. They got 25%. But we got to keep the money we won. So
yeah, it was different at Auburn. We couldn't keep the money. It would go in like it was a club sport, but they were pretty big sticklers, and like whatever money we won, it went in an account where we get like reimbursed on gas and stuff, but we weren't actually getting the money that we won. So, but there was a lot of teams that did, and the FLW, it was like 100,000, first place.
Yeah.
So and some of these kids were getting to keep, some of the guys were getting to keep it. So it was pretty there for a couple of years. There were some college guys that were raking it in.
Yeah, I know they'd have like five regions and like 4 or 5 tournaments in each region, and like those tournaments are worth like 10 grand played first place. And then if you qualified for the regional, I think it was 50 grand, and then the national championship was 100 grand. So there was a lot of money out there to be won. Yeah.
I would say now with the NIL stuff, schools aren't as strict, And I mean, if you have somebody, like I can't remember that dude that fished the Classic last year. Tristan McCormick, I think's his name. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's off to a great start this year. He qualified for the Classic through the college series last year. And you take a guy like that with the NIL deals. I mean, somebody like Berkeley can just swoop in and say, "Hey, we're going to pay this guy, sponsor this guy, and don't have to worry about it." That's a cool thing. I don't know if bass fishing has that going on like the other sports, but that could help those kids out a lot.
I'll say this too about the whole college fishing thing. This is kind of, I guess, if you want to say Jordan's made it now, I guess you could say that.
I think you could, maybe.
And I don't want to bring this back up, but I know this is a sour subject. But so whenever we were in college, you had people that you knew that just whatever it is, they had it. But I remember Jordan, whenever they first came out with the Classic spot, you could if you qualified, finish so high in the national championship, you go in the bracket deal and fish for the Classic spot. The first year, Jordan made it to the last day with his brother, and his brother
I've
beat
heard
him.
this before.
The very next year, Jordan gets back and does the same thing and wins. Just to do that though, and Jordan will testify to this. I mean, with the caliber of anglers that we had, to be able to do that 2 years in a row, I mean, that's from the outside looking in at Jordan. I mean, you knew he was going to do something fishing related.
Yeah. And it wasn't what year was that? Like 13?
I think so.
Yeah. And then it's just a few years later, it's back-to-back Classics. So I mean, that was just a precursor.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, the whole fishing game. Looking back on everything, it's like when I was first getting into it, and like in the college years and stuff, you just never, I always wanted to do it, but you never knew what was around the corner. I mean, in fishing, it's like there's so many unknowns. It's not like, okay, I'm going to go get this job and I kind of know what it's going to be like and I kind of know what I'm going to make. It's basically a giant gamble in fishing.
Mm-hmm.
You're just literally throwing money out there and hope to win some of it back. You may not. I mean, you just literally take the good with the bad. And I mean, I've been blessed for sure. And, it's been a good career so far. If I don't ever catch another one. So, but yeah, catching bass for a living it's a pretty crazy thing if you really think about it. I mean, you're literally trying to trick an animal to open up his mouth to get him in the boat to win a little money. So pretty wild. But.
You definitely got some tricks up your sleeve. That's for sure. Because you trick them plenty enough.
I'm running out of the tricks. The tricks are a lot of the tricks are getting they're going away, but you got to stay on top of them.
Oh yeah.
Is there a point where you win enough tournaments where you don't feel that stress, like you have to you're not worried, maybe you're not worried about paying bills and now you're worried about how you're finishing or performance or furthering your career? Has there become a point where that kind of stress? I mean, there's always pressure to win, but where that stress or it's necessary, has there been a point where that's alleviated, or do you still feel that?
Yeah, I mean, even in the beginning, I never tried to really think about the money side of it. I just always was like, well, whatever, I'm going to live below my means always, because in fishing, it's like, you don't ever want to get ahead of yourself. And I guess that's really anything, but especially this, because I mean, you could have a really good year and then the next year you could completely tank and you just don't know year to year. But I mean, there's always going to be stress, I feel like, because you want to perform, you want to go out there and do well. And it's like, if you don't have that kind of stress, or that you don't fish as hard, you may get a little too relaxed and then you just get left behind. So there's always that, pretty much, you got to be thinking around the corner every turn, because somebody else is putting in the time, and they're thinking on it, and you just have to be prepared.
Yeah, and here's the crazy thing about that too. So like, you go into a tournament and you've got them figured out, and you go in and tournament day, everything works out just like you planned on it. You're catching fish, you got a good bag, and I don't know if it's the competitor or just whatever it is, but even then, you're always thinking it could be better. I could be
Yeah.
doing something better, and you don't ever know the results until you get back in, and even whether you're fishing a 10 boat club tournament or the Bassmasters Classic. I mean, to win a tournament, you have to have everything go your way.
Yeah.
Bills, we got some questions rolling in here. Eddie Endicott's got a question for both you guys. Absolutely love throwing a spinnerbait year-round in our Highland reservoirs during tournaments. What is your go-to bait in Highland reservoirs in Kentucky?
Or we can just say anywhere, because I don't know if Jordan's,
Yeah.
In Kentucky specifically.
Yeah, we'll let John answer this one. He's a Kentucky guru.
Yeah, no. I mean, I guess I don't really have a favorite or a go-to. I mean, it depends on the time of year more than anything. In the springtime, especially in our Highland reservoirs here, you got like Lake Cumberland, Dale Hollow, Laurel, Barron, Green, all those lakes. It seems like we always get, usually in February, we get a big rain that carries through March, where you've just got high waters. Makes it hard to navigate with all the stuff floating, with the lakes have been down all winter. I mean, especially like you catch a warming trend, muddy water. I mean, a spinnerbait, a double Colorado, whatever. Just really and truly, whatever your confidence is. I like spinnerbait, chatterbait. Crankbait's a big deal. I've kind of gotten away from cranking, I guess, as much here lately in the last few years with live scope the way it is, and it just seems like it's getting harder and harder to compete on the banks in Kentucky and just surrounding Kentucky. Places like Gunnersville that has a lot of submerged vegetation, just different things to offer. It just sets up different. But here specifically in Kentucky, I mean, a lot of it's just dependent on the day, depending on the weather, what it's been doing, what the fish are doing, what stage they're in. So I mean, there's a lot of key factors to kind of narrow it down to one specific bait. So,
what would you? I remember this was probably 3 years ago. I just moved to Fort Campbell, and I was fishing Kentucky Lake all the time. We was on our Tuesday Night Live show, and you were on, and dude, I was basically just bitching because I wasn't catching fish. Is what I was doing.
He does that a lot.
Dude, I just kept switching it up, couldn't catch anything, and you're like, dude, just fish what you're confident in. Just fish that, and dude, I did that, and since then, I've been catching fish. So for both you all, if you go to a lake, maybe it's a little slow. What is that like your confidence bait? Like what are you going to throw if you know, like what's that one bait if you throw you're going to get bit?
I mean, for me, I typically tend to lean towards the chatterbait just because you can cover water with it. It gets bites, it gets big bites, but there's times when you're not getting bit and you just want to just speed up naturally, and sometimes that's the worst thing to do too. So, you kind of got to know that. I mean, for me, I'm always trying to find fish quick because I may have a day or two, but there's times when I'll catch myself and I'll be winding the blades about to fall off my chatterbait.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to cover as much water as I can. So, but that's one bait that you can throw pretty much, year round. And I mean, it's just a good bait, to get bit on.
They're fun to throw too, man. I love throwing those things.
Are you, so there's been a couple mentions already about using a jackhammer. Is that pretty much everyone's go-to now is the jackhammer?
Yeah. I mean, I throw the jackhammer and I throw Berkeley's new one out. It's called a slobber knocker.
Oh yeah.
I throw both of those pretty much, but really the last 2 years or last year, I didn't really catch that many fish on it. And just in general, I mean, guys do obviously, but our tournaments didn't line up where, it was just set up good for it. But I feel like the chatterbait bite in general, though, it still catches them, but it's not as good as it I think was a couple years ago.
Yeah,
but that's just my opinion.
Jake Sector, he asked, do you use trailers, no, or both? What kind of trailers do you use? Sometimes there's a situation where maybe you don't use a trailer.
I throw a trailer all the time on a chatterbait. I'll throw. Really, I mix it up a lot. Like I'll throw at times when the water's real muddy, like a crawl, like a speed crawl, which is something a little different. That's kind of a lot of people throw a Zacho, and there's a couple different. I played around with 3 or 4 trailers.
Right.
And it really, the deal with the trailer is if you get like a minnow style, like a Zacho or, a minnow, looking, it's going to get that bait a little deeper. And like a crawl, if you're like fishing it, in 2 or 3 foot, it's going to float that bait up. So it really depends on how deep you're fishing. If you want the bait down in the water column or up, and you just kind of got to play with it. See which ones, feels the best.
As far as trailers for me, it just seems like most of the time, whenever I'm in that scenario around these lakes in Kentucky, I usually throw some type of boot tail swim bait, like whether it be a skinny dipper or the Yum makes one, the pulse minnow. It's good. The Rage swimmer, it's got a bigger boot tail on it, a little bigger profile. And I'll throw them both on my chatterbaits and my spinner baits. Typically, I will change it up, like Jordan said, and use some type of crawl trailer but I typically keep it with some type of boot tail swim bait.
Yeah.
Jordan, I think in my mind, looking outside in, it seems like probably if you look at Major League Fishing, there's not a guy on there that can't catch fish, right? So it seems like a big part of winning these tournaments is maybe one, your practice and knowing how each lake's going to set up, knowing what's worked there in the past, knowing your spot. So what's that prep look like for you? I mean, you've been doing this a while now. You're still one of the young guys, but you're one, you're as experienced as just about anybody out there. So what's that prep look like for you week to week?
Yeah, I haven't really pre-practiced a whole lot in the last 4 years. This year I did already went 2 different places. I went to Kissimmee, went to Cherokee and Douglas for a day just to ride around and just remember what stuff looks like. But, that's one of the most the practice, we get 2 days of practice. So you go to somewhere like the Kissimmee chain, okay? We were down there this past week. You get, the first day we had pretty good weather. You pretty much, you got 4 lakes. So you got to make a decision right off the bat. Hey, what lakes am I going to fish?
Yeah.
And run around, fish a little bit. Well, the day's over with. Next day it's blowing 30. Can't even hardly fish. So 1 day of practice. And then you're like, well, I don't know. I caught 1 3-pounder and a couple little fish, and and then you just kind of. I mean, for me, I have to just build during the tournament and try to figure it out during the tournament because our practice is so limited, and the prep we get a month off limits. So whatever you find a month before is not going to be good, during the tournament. So it's really just going off the hip a lot and. And it's hard to do. It really is because, we got score trackers, so we know what other guys are doing, and so you know where you're at. And then if you're down in you're down in the, the pack, and just trying to figure that out during, the time's ticking. I mean, you just got to get on them quick, and if you don't, you're gonna have a tough day. But
John, you just pulled up that question I was going to ask you. Well, both of you, when you're practicing or you're trying to figure it out, like you were saying, like during the tournament, are you more of scanning or casting, or maybe a little bit of both?
You're casting. very rarely am I, scanning during the tournament or something like that. But there's times that I will. There's definitely been tournaments where it's during the middle of the tournament. I'm looking for, if I'm fishing offshore, I'm looking for more fish, and trying to find them during the tournament. But it just kind of depends. But most of the time, I'm just casting, searching. Unless it's a summertime type deal. So.
Yeah, I guess for me. Go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
No, go ahead, John.
I mean, I guess for me, a lot of the lakes we go to, or I guess the tournaments that I fish more so, it's more of you've got your areas where they should be, where you call them in the past, and 9 times out of 10, those areas are not the ticket. That's not the ticket. But it's one of those things where I typically try to stay away of what I feel like may be the deal, and then try to do something similar, and just try to expand off that in practice. But like Jordan said, if you've got a summertime tournament, it's more, obviously you're going to spend a lot more time on your electronics. In the springtime, you've got fish moving, coming up, coming down. And it's kind of one of those deals where you want to make casts, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of people just in our area make the mistake of overfishing a place. And a lot of our lakes are smaller, so you may have a creek that has 4 good pockets in it. Well, you take some of the tournaments we fish, you'll have 250 to 300 boats. You take 10 boats that go in those pockets, and each one of those boats catch one fish, and then then you go back in the tournament like, oh, why don't they bite? So even having time to practice, you still kind of do like Jordan was talking. You still kind of have to figure it out as the day goes. Kind of let the fish tell you what's going on.
Oh.
So it's kind of one of those things where you've got it's kind of hard to explain. Just really, you're going by feel, and I'm sure Jordan will agree with that. You go by feel more than anything. Like once you're doing something, if you're going out and you're cranking, whether it's square bill, little john, whatever it may be, if it doesn't feel right and you're not going to do it with confidence, you might as well go do something else, because you're not going to make that work.
Right.
But it's kind of different, I guess, with what type of tournament you're fishing, that type of thing. So
yeah. Tennessee Bassmaster here. He's a big fan. He's from YouTube. He says, Jordan, he also said he lives close to Cherokee. If he gets to see you at a tournament, will you sign his J. Lee signature series?
Oh,
you're a man of the people, right, Jordan?
But yeah, I think he knows the answer to that, of course. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, hey,
if I run into you, dude, I'm gonna get you to sign this like section.
Yeah,
you're Josh. You can't be a fanboy on here, man.
I'll got it big on the back too.
One thing I think is real cool is all of us are sports fans outside of bass fishing, and when we go to cover tournaments, you'll see like 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds wearing Jordan Lee jerseys, right? And I'm sure growing up you may have had I don't know, whoever jersey, your favorite players. Yeah. But is it when you look at that, it's kind of like, man, that's pretty surreal. That's pretty cool to see kids wearing my jersey and people lining up for autographs. I mean, I know that's not why you got into it, but that's a cool aspect of it.
Yeah, it's a cool aspect. I can't even really tell you what it feels like. I mean, it just kind of just came with it over time, really. But I mean, I'm really thankful for it. I'm thankful that, people like to watch me fish, even on my bad days. It's just fun. I mean, I loved watching professional fishing, since I was a kid. So, I mean, I can really relate when I see a young boy or young girl who's into fishing, is excited to see me, excited to, get an autograph or whatever it may be. I mean, I'll always take that time, because I remember being, that kid, and it goes by quick. Obviously, it's gone by quick for me, but it is fun, and they're, you know, when you see that, I mean, it's a pretty good feeling.
Scott Butler says, I'm going to get me a John Stepp jersey. Scott, that's
probably
the jersey. It's probably the only jersey.
I might start selling those, actually.
I'm still waiting on my John Smith jersey, but I ain't
John Smith. That's what I want. Tennessee Bassmaster. Tennessee Bassmaster he's just 14 years old. He's the one who's wanting the J. Lee Signature Series sign. He's just 14, so he might actually have one of those jerseys. So pretty cool.
Heck yeah.
You know, Jordan, one thing when we talk to John and you know, we bring John up on our show because, you know, Josh and I have had this conversation so many times, like, man, John should be out there. Like, he should be on the Bass Pro Tour, but, you know, whatever. But John was also this guy, Jordan, that literally everything he ever does, he's great at. You know, he scored. He's like in the top 5 of most points.
He's a basketball Hall of Famer. You know,
everything.
He's one of those guys who shines.
Are you that kind of guy too, Jordan?
I'm not. I'm horrible at everything. I can barely tie my shoes. But
you just a fisher.
Yeah, and I can catch some bass every now and then, but most of the time, if you're in my boat, you'd be like, "Oh, this guy sucks." I mean, I can't believe he won 2 classics or whatever. But
I know, Scott.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many days I have.
My dad used to always tell me I could shoot real good, but it didn't always go in.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is. I like
John's dad was my very first job out of high school. John's dad was my boss. He's tough. He's a tough boss, man. I tell you, I've seen him wide into some guys. Maybe not me, but that sounds like something he would say 100%.
You've probably heard him yell at me on the phone too, I'd say.
I probably have, yeah. And your brother worked there at the time, so that was always entertaining.
Oh, yeah.
John's got a pretty good gig around the house. He's working and catching them around the house, which I enjoy, honestly. I mean, as much as anything is fishing around here. I mean, I don't really get to a ton, but I mean, it's fun to actually go to places where you've caught a bass before instead of showing up somewhere and, you know, it is cool fishing for a lot of money, I guess, but you show up somewhere you've never made a cast before and you got to figure them out, and you know you're not going to be on probably the best stuff, but it's just part of it. But it is fun fishing around the house when you kind of know, hey, caught a bass here before. Let's go, try it out.
Yeah. Now, Jordan, you're a big golf fan?
Oh, I see this comment. Is that why you're bringing that up, the golf cart videos?
Well, I was going to bring it up anyway, but this kind of segued into it.
Yeah, well, last year I did a few, reels on Instagram and this and that. We went and played golf on our off day one day, and we were racing the golf carts, and Wiggins was in there, and yeah, that was a good time. We do that from time to time, go play golf because we do have some off days in the mix.
Yeah.
So go shank a bunch of balls, lose a lose a dozen balls at least.
Oh gosh, Jake Sector, Josh. I was just telling Josh about this. Full Swing. It's a new show on Netflix. It follows around like Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas. Those guys. It's really good, by the way, if you're a golf fan.
Great show.
Yeah, that is one thing I can say. Josh is better at me at is golf. He is better than me at golf.
I'm better than you in everything. But anyways, so I've seen several comments, and I have to bring it up because we do every show.
Every week.
Every single show. I have to give your opinions on it. Forward facing sonar. So,
it's a divisive subject.
My thing is I always kind of say the same thing. The guys that really get I feel like super upset about it that I've noticed are the guys that are fishing like the local tournaments, the local derbies, because you got
where some people have it and some don't.
Yeah, some guys can afford, an $80,000 boat with live sonar, all this stuff, and you got one dude that's fishing like an 18.5 foot aluminum, and maybe he can't afford it.
Tacked.
But on the professional fishing, everybody's got it. Everyone's got live sonar at some point. So, what's your all's opinion on forward facing sonar?
I mean, for me, I've never had a problem with it. I've never been great with it. I'm not like next level like some guys are. That I fish against who, I mean, they can pick one out, no matter where we go, that's what they're doing. But I mean, for me, very rarely, I mean, depending on some lakes we go to set up for it, I know that I'm going to use it. But there's a lot of lakes we go to that, that don't set up where I'm maybe 10%, I would say, during the year, am I actually watching a fish eat my bait? Probably less than that. I mean, literally, probably like 3 or 4%. Maybe the fish I weigh during the year, I'm actually catching off live sonar. That's just me. But there, some guys obviously use a lot more. But the Highland reservoirs, like where John fishes, I mean, he's using it a lot. If I'm down here fishing Smith a lot, I'm using it all the time. But a lot of lakes, I'm not necessarily using it all day.
Yeah, as far as it goes for me, the way I look at it is, before forward-facing sonar came out, I was catching a lot of those fish off my 2D sonar. I was still catching the same fish, but the only difference is you couldn't keep up with them. Now you can keep up with those fish.
Right.
Makes sense.
And the way I look at it is not so much as it's an advantage or whatever. I mean, you take before forward-facing sonar, you had your structure scan, your side scan, your down scan. Yeah. There was guys that was really, really, really good with that, and there was times of the year where those guys would really shine because they were so good with that. To me, there's no difference really in a guy dialing in his side scan and being really good with that versus a guy being really good with his. Now the technologies is completely different, but right. just knowing the ins and outs of both, right. and they're both tools. I mean, you're going to use them. Like there's a lot of times where I probably use my forward facing sonar more to save time than I do to actually throw at fish and catch fish off of it, if that makes sense. And even whether you're fishing, in 10, 12 foot of water or out in 30 or 40 foot of water, you just save so much time over the course of an 8-hour day, where it's just, it's unbelievable.
I think not just forward-facing sonar, but any type of sonar. When you see those fish, and I guess maybe a little more when you can actually see them moving, but I feel like it would, a lot of times would be kind of a disadvantage because it kind of gets you hung up on those fish, and they're not biting, but you don't want to leave them because they're sitting there.
Yeah, it absolutely can be a deal where you spend too much time sitting there, and and you're just wasting time. That happens a lot. You just got to know kind of in your mind, hey, this isn't working. I can sit here and stare at it all day, but
yeah.
It's just going by your gut. I'm sure in probably 99% of the tournaments that you all fish, a lot of times it's just you're going with your gut. Like
One thing I've always said, and this was even before forward facing sonar was even a thing, I always want to go out and catch the fish that's ready to bite. I don't want to have to make them bite. Now there's times where you do, but just about everywhere you go, there's going to be fish that's ready to bite. And if you're fishing an area and it's just not happening, don't be afraid to pull it and go on, do something else, try something different.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of comments about it. People say, well, they're trying to make fishing a rich man sport and stuff like that, but it's really only at the top levels where it's necessary to have it because it just evens the playing field. But like, Jordan, like you said, you're not winning tournaments because of it. And I think I referenced last week or maybe when we had Keith Poche on a couple weeks ago. And of course, that was one of the first questions we got. Yeah. And he was talking about he's a big fan of John Cox, shallow water fisherman. And I remember John Cox won a tournament last year and they asked him about forward facing sonar. And he said, well, I don't know. Mine's still in the truck, and he had $100,000 check. So there's still guys getting it done that don't rely on it, but everybody has it. So it's fair at that level.
It is. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I mean, there's tournaments where I'm like, I feel like I need to use it. I'm going to use it, or I'm going to use it to my advantage. But I'm not going to. I've never gone in a tournament, and been like, man, I'm just going to watch every fish eat my bait today.
Yeah.
But just setting up on structure and whatever. I mean, it definitely comes into play, and I use it when I need to.
Yeah.
But
I'm trying to look up. I guess it's about 2 weeks till Red Crest.
Yeah, it's coming up pretty quick. It's really just over a week, I guess. A week away at Lake Norman. So It's been a while since I've been there. So we'll see.
What do you, I feel like just watching things like through social media, watching online, media coverage, that Major League Fishing is probably the most watched tournament trail. But when it comes to the main event, the Classic is still the Classic. And so what do you think you guys have to do to get Red Crest to the status? I mean, it's the same event, but it's still don't have that allure like the Classic does. So what do we need to do to get the Red Crest up there to where it's that name and that status?
Yeah.
I mean, as a former 2 back-to-back champion.
Yeah. I mean, the Classics just got so much history. The Classics got
Right.
I mean, whenever 74 maybe was the first one. So, you got that many years.
I think last year was the 50th anniversary. Am I wrong on that? When we were there, Josh, was it the 50th anniversary? Maybe I'm wrong, but it's been about 50 years. You're right.
Yeah, been about 50 years. So it's just going to be our fifth one, maybe, or fourth or fifth one.
Yeah. Did you guys have one the COVID year? I don't think you did you? Like you postponed it or something?
I can't even remember.
Yeah, I think this is the fourth. Yeah.
I can't even remember, honestly. But, man, this past year was the first time we actually had an expo and everything, and it went, I would say, pretty well. I mean, it wasn't like the Classic by any means. And, it's different, too, for us not bringing in fish. I feel like, the weigh-ins, though, I mean, they are fun, especially the Classic when you bring in fish and you're in front of everybody. But Major League Fishing, for us, catch, weigh, and release, they're all in on the catch, weigh, and release. And we know
I like that.
Yeah, we know it's better for the fisheries, but you don't have that drama like you do. Maybe it's sometimes who wins, but you don't have that big moment like you go up there, you drop the weight, drop the fish on the scales. You have that winning moment. We don't have that. Our winning moment's on the water, which is it's different, but it's cool in its own way. So it's just I don't think we're ever gonna have a, for them, and honestly for Major League Fishing, it's a lot about viewership. That's where they make their money is off, and they're not, we want a big show, and it's going to be one of those things. I think it's just going to take a lot of time, to maybe build it up to where we figure out, they figure out the right recipe of, fish care plus, bringing in fans, what works, what doesn't.
One thing I like about what they're doing, it seems like they give you guys a word in what direction that they should go or what they're going to go. I don't know if that's the case or not, but just from the outside looking in, it seems that way, that you guys have a big input on.
Yeah, we absolutely do.
Well, like the five fish format you're going back to. I mean, you guys basically did that. The anglers did that, right?
Yeah, the anglers did that. And I mean, we've always had like kind of a say-so on the rules and stuff, but this year we pretty much got together and, a lot of the anglers and just really figured out what do we want to do going forward, and this felt like it was the best thing to do. But yeah, I mean, they do a really good job of listening to us, and they don't make all their decisions based on our opinions, because the fishermen, they're never going to be happy. Number one, we're always got everybody's got a different opinion on something, but
right.
If we can kind of collectively come together as a group to make it better, to make us excited about the events. Hey, that's what we're trying to do. And I mean, honestly, they've done a really good job. I mean, the payout structure and the entry fee structure. We went from no entry fees starting out to paying $40,000 the next year. And now they've got it on deferred payment where we're paying a little over $10,000, for the full year.
Yeah.
So it's good. They move in the right direction, and they do things behind the scenes to make it better. So
yeah. Well, as much as we just enjoy, and I mean, you guys enjoy just getting out there and fishing and competing. At the end of the day, they got to make money. You guys can't do it. If they don't make money, then you don't get paid. You can't do it. And I feel like Major League Fishing has the best product when it comes to marketing you guys, putting you on everyone's screens, and doing that. And so they are maximizing profits and whatnot. But the Classic still has that history. And I'm sure you guys, I mean, the ones that have made the jump to MLF are still watching that and checking it out as much as you can.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm still like a big fan of everything, and I watch everything, and, it's still, I mean, to me, I mean, I just love to watch fishing too. So yeah, I mean, when the Classic rolls around, I'm tuning in, I'm checking out Bassmaster, I'm checking out ours, I'm checking out however these fish are getting caught. I want to watch. So,
do you think there'll ever be a day where there's some crossover? Like Poche is doing both this year, which I don't know how a person can survive doing both.
So he's attempting to. So he tried. It's going to be tough for him because we had the first two were on top of each other, so he had to miss the first elite. So he's already in last in points, which. That's one thing that I just hate about the two organizations. I don't hate, that's a strong word, but I dislike that they can't work together on scheduling, because there was a time when I thought, hey, I'm going to fish both, and then you look at the schedules and it's just like, man, it's just a nightmare.
There's part of me that looked at the schedules, because Josh and I, we want to go to as many as we can. And we have to be at the Classic. That's like the main event,
Yeah.
And Red Crest is just a little too far for us to work in our schedule. We're 3 hours from Knoxville. So, but there's part of me when I looked at the two schedules side by side, I'm like, I feel like they may have done some of this for spite. Like to get a competitive, just the way they scheduled against each other. It felt that way. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's all coincidence, but I feel like a little bit of it was.
And it puts the anglers, we're just all trying to, compete in bass tournaments. So it's like, it's pretty frustrating. I mean, the scheduling, I know you like MLF, they got, 200 something tournaments they got to schedule or something crazy, from the BFLs, the Toyota series to, this and that. It's just a lot of scheduling conflicts, but it's just how it goes.
Let's see here. Trying to look, dude. I fell way behind on our comment section here. Just by
WO asked about practice days. I think Jordan said they get 2 practice days now.
Yeah, we get a full day and then to 6 in the afternoon the next day.
No, okay.
And it goes by extremely quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So, John, one question we always get, someone said it there, Josh, you probably couldn't find it. And John, we'll start with you here. And Josh, we'll let you answer this too. You just went fishing today. When you, no matter where you're at, maybe even just your home lake, what are the 3 setups you always have on your deck?
I mean,
I know it varies a lot, but the three most popular.
I mean, I feel like a jig is number one. It seems like no matter where you go, especially around these highland reservoirs,
yeah,
when the bite gets tough, whether you're in clear water, dirty water, whatever it may be, you can always pick a jig up and go flip laydowns and get bit. And a jig's kind of versatile too, in that you can fish it in a foot of water, or you can fish it in 30 foot of water.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like a jig is definitely probably the number one thing. Just the number two thing now with forward facing sonar is just some type of swim bait.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in clear water. That seems like I've got more spinning rods on my deck now than I ever have, just because of forward facing sonar. And then on top of that, you've got usually some type of top water. In the spring, you'll have a time period where you can catch them on a buzz bait. Then you get your shad spawn, you catch them. Then you move out to your walking baits, catch them in open water. So I feel like a top water really all the way through till the water really dips below probably 55, in December or whenever it may be. A top water is usually always good to have.
Yep. Josh, what about you?
For me, man, I mainly fish out at Kentucky Lake. So kind of like John said, I've always got a jig tied on at all times. I usually throw like a football jig is my favorite.
Chad Haynes special.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Bite me baits 100% of the time.
They're good. They really are good.
They are. Kentucky also, it stays pretty clear most of the time. Like we just got a ton of rain. Went up on the northeast section of Kentucky Lake today. It was clear. So jerkbait, always throwing a jerkbait up there, and then I'll always have some type of my confidence. If I'm not getting bit on those two, I'm just going to throw a simple Texas rig
with a trick worm
or the carp. Or the carp. What's the carp update on Kentucky Lake?
Well, they're still there. I've seen plenty of them jumping today, but they're doing as much as they can. Kentucky Fish and Wildlife in Tennessee, I don't know what they call themselves.
TWRA.
Yeah, they've been doing a lot of work. They put a lot of nets. Last year they shut a ton of the bays down. You couldn't go back in a lot of the arms for the nets and everything. And then I have not been to a boat ramp in probably 3 years and not seen a 21-foot boat with 1,000 pounds of carp they just killed with bows. So they're trying, but I don't know, just they regenerate so quick and reproduce so quick. It's like they're everywhere, man. Like last year, 4th of July, we're out in the middle of the lake on the channel. I think it's 4th of July before, and we was on a pontoon. All of a sudden, my wife is on the back on a tube getting pulled, and she doesn't see them jumping around her, and then all of a sudden, dude, like a 35-pound Asian carp lands on her chest while she's on this tube. It was quite funny, but she did not get back on that tube.
That's great. You needed a what's that? What's that? The thing I use on the back of my boat with my GoPro. The stick.
Oh,
yellow stick.
Yellow stick.
Yeah, you needed that turned toward her, man, so we could have seen that.
But
I know you probably get tired of talking about the carp, but I'm just because it's been a while since I've heard about anything. But, is it like? Is the fishing got it all any better? Like, are the fish set up at all on ledges anymore? Or is it just
it's not. And there's probably some guys in the comments that can talk on it as well.
Maybe, yeah.
It's definitely gotten better for sure. It is. It isn't. I didn't fish Kentucky Lake 15 years ago, but compared to 15 years ago to now, most older dudes are probably going to say, yeah, it's garbage. But it's definitely gotten a lot better. And I went through and looked at it because I fished some team tournaments back 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I started looking at all of the weigh-ins, and 10 pounds would win on Kentucky Lake 4 years ago.
That's crazy.
And then the year before last, all of a sudden it was 15 pounds. And then last year it was 25 pounds. The smallmouth fishing has gotten a lot better.
It's improved, yeah.
It has gotten a lot better. So I think it's starting to rise up. It's just going to take time because, dude, these Asian carp are nuts.
How's the grass like down in Johnsonville? Is it the grass like? Do you ever fish that end up below Paris?
I don't know.
People say the grass is gone though.
Yeah, I fish up on the north side, but from what I've heard, I mean it's wiped out. Like there is no grass whatsoever. That it's. I mean, I'm sure you could probably go out and find some patches, but but it's pretty much gone. And
I think last year,
you're also asking about the ledges. From what I've heard the last year, and most guys have told me this, is like your main body of fish, your big bodies of fish, they're not really, and I'm sure you'll find some. I'm not going to say you won't at all, but they more set up on like secondary points rather than going all the way out like true ledge fish. So, yeah. But there might be, I can't remember who it is. That's maybe WO. WO's fished Kentucky Lake a ton. Maybe he can speak on it a little more too because he fishes out there. He might be able to find them.
He was in the comments. I think it was last year they pulled 9 million pounds of carp out of there.
Oh my God!
Do you all have a history with Kentucky Lake at all?
Yeah, John's a big stick on Kentucky. He's caught some fish out there.
I've caught a few fish out there. I've not really fished it in the past several years. Whenever we were in college, I fished Kentucky Lake several times a year. We had several tournaments out there.
Yeah.
But it was even then, like I know there was one tournament we fished. It was the collegiate bass. We had an open tournament out there, and it was like a team deal. So like we did like 3. Like me and my partner, we'd weigh in 3, and the other teams would weigh in 3. Then we would combine our weights, and that was your weight as a team.
Yeah.
There was one tournament we pulled up on our first spot, and we had like 16 pounds in a matter of probably, I mean, it was 3 fish. We had like 16 pounds in a matter of 15 minutes. And then it was just us. I mean, we ran like 30 mile an hour back down, and we had a big smallmouth that day that was trying to die on us. So we went back and was like asking the guys, "Hey, can we go ahead and weigh our fish?" Like we ended up weighing our fish at 12 o'clock that day.
That's funny.
we weighed our fish and went and sat down and got us something to eat while the other guys was coming in weighing in.
That's the way to do it, man.
But it don't always happen like that though.
No.
I learned to. I've always been very, very simple fishing, like just a spinning rod up until I moved out here in Western Kentucky and started fishing team tournaments with my buddy Jackson, and he introduced me to flip and buckbrush. And once I learned how to catch them in buckbrush, it's really hard for me to put the stick down when the water gets up high enough. Okay. Really hard. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's a pretty good time.
Yeah. Wired to Fish did a really good project last year with Kentucky Fish and Wildlife and TWRA that showed how the Kentucky and Barkley are getting back to where they were. And then talking to Mark Menendez, who's a guy we've talked to quite a bit, I think they both said like 2 more years and they feel confident with the hatches they've had, with the amount of carp they've removed. A couple years from now, they feel that it's going to be pretty much back to where it was. So
that's good.
Yeah, that'd be good because they're like Josh said, it dropped significantly. But all right, Jordan, I don't think you gave us your three setups you always have to have on your deck.
Oh man, I'm always gonna have a spinning rod. So I'm either gonna have probably a drop shot, for sure. Typically,
use flatworms.
A flatworm for smallmouth, robo worm for largemouth.
Okay.
Yep, that's pretty much my go-to. And so I'm always gonna have a spinning rod, and then, I'm a jig fisherman too. Flipping, casting, and I'm always, 3/8 half. I'm gonna always have a jig. I remember last year, like the first 4 tournaments, I think I caught all my fish on a jig. So and then probably a chatterbait. Those are three baits that I'm probably always gonna have in the boat for sure.
Yeah, there you go. Well, fellas, let's see. Eddie Ennicon's asking about F1s in South Central Kentucky. That's more of like a local question. Eddie, I'm all for improving opportunities for bigger bass. I just don't know enough about the fisheries and the biology behind it and the cost to say one way or the other. But I mean, if we can grow bigger bass, I love it. But I think that's a good point there. People are starting to drop off. Jordan's got to get back to getting his tackle ready. John, any last words from you? John's the one who put this together. When he saw we were doing a bass fishing show, he's like, "Hey, maybe we can get Jordan on." I looked at the schedule. I was like, "Hey, I think he's got like a 2-week break right here." So, John, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you reaching out.
Listen, guys, we appreciate you having us. It's good catching up with Jordan. Hopefully he can catch some fish sometime. I know he's been struggling the last few years. So
yeah, maybe one day I'll reach your level.
Yeah, I think it's been at least 2 years since he was Angler of the Year. That's a drought.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's just tough fishing against Jacob Wheeler,
Yeah.
You got the little squad now, like Wheeler and Connell and Mark.
That's the Ding squad. That's the Ding
click.
squad.
Yeah. They excluded you from that group?
Yeah, I wasn't invited. I wasn't invited to the Ding squad.
Hey, man, you're welcome with this group anytime.
Yeah, there you
go.
Just start your own group, man. Start your own group. So, but
Right,
Jordan, we do appreciate you, man, and we're pulling for you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be down. We'll be going to Knoxville for the Classic, but we're going to try to get there the last day of the Cherokee Douglas event. So maybe we'll see you down there. And but if not, hey, you're always welcome to come on, talk fishing, talk football, golf, talk about beating John up at tournaments, whatever.
I'm not doing that. We know better than that now. But yeah, I appreciate y'all having me on here, and hopefully Cherokee and Douglas, but it'll be good to us. But I mean, it's as warm as it's been. I'm sure it'll be 30 degrees when we roll into town, but it'll be fun. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've been there, so I'm excited to go back.
Well, good luck at Red Crest, man. I know there's a lot on the line there, and that's a big event, and so good luck, and we'll be watching and pulling for you and updating our Facebook, social media stuff. So, yeah, we appreciate your time,
I
brother.
appreciate it, man.
All right, fellas. Well, hey guys, everybody that's watching, we appreciate you. Next Thursday, we don't even have a guest lined out for next Thursday, but we'll find somebody. Maybe just go in here and chat a little bit. But thank you for watching. Check us out on Tuesdays if you're a hunter, if you're a trapper, if you're an outdoorsman. Check us out on Thursdays if you like bass fishing. And holler at us. We appreciate you guys. Have a good night.
See you guys.
Bye.